media. As consumers, we are bombarded by it at every turn, like the Incredible Hulk being bombarded by gamma rays. But what makes some media endure, while others are banished to the forgotten black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? Who or what decides this? Hetero life mates Steve and Yahel want to know, and they want to know now. This is Obscurity Now. And what's up, everybody? Welcome to another show of Obscurity Now, where we take a look at weird and almost forgotten pieces of media that we decide if they should be remembered for all of human history or tossed into the black void of obscurity, never to be heard from again. I'm one of the hosts, Steve, and with me is a man who has no one to envy. In fact, he envies you having him to envy. It's
Yahel. Dude, I was going to make that joke.
One of the best lines, if not in that show, possibly of all time.
Yeah, it's a great line. And the show that we are talking about is The Critic. It's a cartoon from 1994, starring one John Lovitz.
Wow, jumping right in there. No playful banter? You got somewhere to be?
it was... Steve, I'm sorry, but banter is beneath me now. It's one of the things that make me so envied.
Well, I was thinking about like ways of fine tuning this fine show in the new year of 2023, and I was just like, should I even bother like explaining the show and who we are, because it's all in the pre-recorded intro, but then you don't get the fun little intros for yourself. I don't know.
Sure, fun. That's what they are.
Sure. Oh yeah. Wow, I didn't really.
No, I just saw like a good segue, and I just took it. Steve, I'm not a fan of missed opportunities, as you know. Such as when dogs are given real people names. It's okay.
Would you like to explain to the listener/viewer what you're even referencing?
I'm watching a dog here. It's not mine, but his name is Hank.
Named after
and he smokes 2 packs a day.
I was just thinking of Hank Hill from King of the Hill. Were you ever a King of the Hill fan?
No, I actually kind of
really it took me a while to get into it. I think if you stick around, it'll warm you over. But yeah, speaking of,
I'm in my 40s, Steve. I can't be.
Hey, I feel the same way. I hate when people are like, "Hey, man, did you watch She-Hulk or whatever Disney Plus Marvel bullshit show?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I watched the pilot. It was awful." And they're like, you got to stick around to the 3rd or 4th episode, then it gets good. It's like, come on, man. I got podcasts to make. I got comic books to produce. I can't be sitting around waiting for some crappy Disney Marvel show to get good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm going to start like a betting pool on how long it'll take for you to complain about Disney Marvel. Every episode. Like at this point, we could easily do a super of it.
I've been toying with the idea of doing those hate videos that get so many clicks and views, because I'm ready for the rip.
Steve, you do one every Sunday.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, I guess I should just clip them out and put them on the TikTok, who has forsaken us lately. But speaking of animation, because referencing back to Hang of the Hill, as Yahel said.
Yes.
Yahel said.
I'm like, don't explain your segue.
We're watching The Critic, which is a great show. What is your history with The Critic?
I watched the Critic religiously as a 13-year-old.
Me too.
So yeah, I enjoyed The Critic a lot when I was a teenager, and I'm pretty sure I'm remembering this right. Didn't it used to air on USA?
I don't remember USA. According...
Because it started on a network and then it went to USA? It
started on ABC. According to the trivia section of the IMDb, it started on ABC, which I find almost baffling because it's such a smart show.
Hey, you know who owns ABC?
Disney. I know.
Disney.
That's what I was going to say.
So see? You love it.
It's just
you love
amazing
Disney.
Watching a show as cynical as The Critic and thinking, wow, this appeared on basically a Disney network. And I mean, obviously, it didn't last long. It was there for a season, and then it got picked up by Fox. And now this was interesting. And now, did you watch it when it jumped to Fox?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure I watched it all the way through. Although I gotta say, I was looking through some of those season 3 episodes, and I'm not 100% sure. But anyways, yeah, I'm sure I watched it when it jumped to
Yeah,
Fox.
that's what I was. What's up?
Sorry, go ahead. Finish
Yeah,
your
that's what I was
story.
going to ask you. Are you even aware that there was a season 3 of the Critic, and that it was on Adam Films? You remember that?
It sounds vaguely familiar. I mean, I didn't know how many seasons there were. I probably just never watched the last season because I thought there were just 2.
Right. Okay. So
So
on regular TV, there was the 2 seasons. It ended on Fox, and then it got picked up by Comedy Central, and our favorite canceled TV network, UPN, was talking about yeah,
open.
Open.
That's what we called it on the streets.
That's what the kids still call it these days. If you're
Yeah,
down, if
yeah.
you're down.
You watching the up and later?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you know it, bro. But yeah, they were gonna pick it up, but for whatever reason they passed. And then, however many years later, do you even remember the website Adam Films?
Not really, but so Kevin Ball in the chat, and hello, Kevin. He said Hachi Machi, which I did remember the critics'
Many
catchphrase. But he
catchphrases.
said that I think he must be referring to the last season, and I think you're about to touch on. He was saying like, yeah, it was done in Flash.
Right.
Think,
Yeah. It was.
right?
Adam Films was basically like, this is pre-YouTube. It was a website for people to put, I think, basically their shorts, like short films, more or less. And yeah, it was like I don't know. They had like a lot of money behind them, and I remember watching shorts on there, and they even had advertising on regular TV. Yeah, and I just remember one day somehow I found out that the Critic was on there, and I watched like a couple episodes, and I think I just sort of forgot about it. But the one, I mean, aside from the animation style, I remember one of the main differences is that, like, you notice on the regular Critic show, they only make fun of, like, fake sequels of real movies. They never really come right out and say, oh, like,
Yeah.
well, on the Adam one, they actually made fun of the real movies, a la, I don't know, Mystery Science Theater 3000 or Riff Tracks or something like that. But but yeah, I don't know. I want to go back and try to watch all of those. But is there anything else that we should touch on before we jump into the Critic?
I do want to touch
You want to touch Kevin?
but touch on Kevin
Wow.
Balls.
You want to touch
Yeah,
Kevin's
yeah,
balls?
Kevin. This is a
Oh my
very
God.
personal podcast here. But Kevin Ball in the chat said that he came to this critique. He said, I believe, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you live in Trinidad, right? And he said, I suppose its low ratings meant that it was cheap enough for us to get it. We didn't get much things, so for me, it was hugely influential. Which I can see. Kevin's actually like a really funny guy, so I'm not surprised that he enjoyed
Nice.
this show. But yeah, let's get
All
into
right,
it.
let's do this thing.
Welcome to your feature presentation.
Alrighty, so the Critic premiered January 26th, 1994. It ran from 1994 to 2001, so they do actually count that, third season as an actual season. There were 33 episodes, and the synopsis for the Critic, in case, you're like super young and have no idea what we're talking about, is as follows. Jay Sherman is a New York film critic who has to review films he doesn't like for a living. And then the episode that we're watching is very interestingly titled The Pilot. And the synopsis for it is as follows. A beautiful actress falls in love with Jay, but he worries that she just wants a good review for her latest film. Oh, dang it. I was going to start a new segment. Completely forgot. I was going to ask you to come up with synopsis for it on your own, but just, off the top of your head. But you just heard it. I don't know. Do you want to take a shot at it? I can't hear you, buddy. Scream louder.
Well, you just explained it, Steve, and as you know, I'm a little high, so I
Can't even operate your mute button. My God.
Apparently not. Well, I have this mechanical keyboard. I don't want to be clackety clack.
Sure, of course.
Unlike you, Steve, I pay attention to our chat. And I was replying to, we have in the chat here Lauren Morgan, who is saying, Hola, hope you all are doing well tonight. So I was replying to Lauren. Excuse me, Steve, for interacting.
No, I mean, thank you for shifting the blame back onto me when it was clearly
your
fault.
Accountability isn't something I do. It's not.
Hello, Lauren. Welcome. Okay, so the pilot here of The Critic was directed by one Rich Moore. Great name. I mean, it only just screams success. And he's known for directing episodes of The Simpsons, Futurama, and then he just couldn't stop there. He directed Wreck-It Ralph 1 and 2, so pretty successful dude. And the writers for this episode are also the creators of The Critic. It's Al Jean, and he is known for the show that we keep talking about because it keeps showing up, Sledgehammer, Alf, one of my favorite shows. The Simpsons,
indeed.
of course. And all right, and this is a show we've got to check out at some point. The Adventures of Jesus and His Brother. The Adventures of Jesus and His Brother.
Wow.
And his
that sounds up our alley for sure.
And his writing partner here, also creator, is Mike Reese. Is basically known for the same shows: Alf, Sledgehammer, The Simpsons. And here's another weird one that I'd never heard of before. Queer Duck. And the production companies include Gracie Films and Columbia Pictures. So aside from John Lovitz, who else voiced The Critic?
Yes, before I get into that, because again, I pay attention to the chat.
I was busy reading.
No, I know. Kevin Ball, seems to be a virtual encyclopedia of knowledge about The Critic. He said, I think they changed Margot's design in season 2 pretty vastly. Most others got streamlined / updated, but hers most of all. And that does kind of, now that you mention it, that does sound
there
familiar.
was a lot of retooling for the second episode. I would say, or second season. Jay wasn't as pathetic as he was in the first season because, they sort of gave him like a girlfriend / love interest in dang, I can't remember her name at the moment, but that lady with the southern accent. And yeah, he was, his design was a little bit, I don't know, I feel like he was slimmed down and his hair wasn't as wiry, stuff like that.
That sounds familiar too. Kevin also said that he had seen Queer Duck and that he noticed the humor similarity. I've never even heard of that one, but we'll have to
100%.
Look into it. But for the cast, speaking of Margot, voiced by Nancy Cartwright. Of course, Steve, I'm sure you know her from one of your favorites.
Bart Simpson.
Yes. So she is the voice of Bart Simpson in The Simpsons. Doesn't she voice some other characters too on The Simpsons?
She does like fill-in stuff here and there, just sort of side characters. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, moving right along, we've got Christine Cavanaugh as Marty Sherman. Christine hasn't worked since 2003, where she did The Wacky Adventures of Ronald McDonald, The Monster O. McDonald Land Walk.
That sounds awesome.
So and this is like, I don't know if you've ever seen like the Ronald McDonald cartoon where he's got like the crazy like hair.
No, I don't think so.
I guess they were trying to hip him up or something. Anyways, it's not.
Does he say who let the dogs out? And
No. It's not voiced by Mitt Romney.
Oh, nice, good callback.
Okay. Kevin asked, "Was it Alice? That was the Southern Belle love interest."
You got it. We should have had him on here.
I know. Maybe you should be hosting, Kevin. Going along with the cast, we've got Garrett Graham playing Franklin Sherman, which is one of my favorite characters on the show. Last thing he did was Cove Road. Looks like it was a movie from 2012, but he didn't really have a lot of stuff. Well, nothing after that. But yeah, moving right along, playing the part of Doris Grossman is Doris Grow.
Yeah, she
So,
also does the voice of Lunch Lady Doris from The Simpsons.
yeah, I wonder why she always uses her name. And she was the script supervisor on The Simpsons for 3 years,
Good for
Steve.
her.
Which is mostly what she did. She worked in script continuity.
Right.
Script
If you
and
go
continuity
back and
departments.
listen to Simpsons commentary, if you have the DVD like I did, because I'm a big Simpsons nerd, yeah, they mentioned that like she was the script supervisor first, and they just thought she was a real unique character with a unique voice, so they threw her in the show.
She does a great job for, not being I guess a
Right.
professional or at least not aspiring to be like
Sure.
an actor. So yeah,
Hmm.
Doris is great. Then we've got Judith Ivey, who plays Eleanor Sherman. She is still working. She was most recently on something called The Accidental Wolf. That
Sounds
was a TV
sounds fun.
miniseries that lasted 2
Hmm.
years, ended in 2022. Who else do we have that's noteworthy? Charles Napier plays Duke
So good.
Phillips. Uh, Gene Shalit appears very briefly for a cameo as
Hmm.
himself. I think Gene Shalit's
Hmm.
funny, so I popped big when I saw him. Um, but Margaret Cho is in this, but I guess she's not credited with a
Right.
particular voice, so I guess she probably just does
Hmm.
background voices or something. But my favorite, or I'm sorry, I as the voice of Valerie Fox was Jennifer Lean, uh, whose voice she's got like a very distinct, low, husky
Hmm.
voice, and I immediately recognized it,
Oh
Steve,
no.
because do you know who she is?
Something related to Star Trek, I presume.
Steve, she played Kess on the first 3 seasons of Star
The
Trek
Kess? Oh
Voyager.
my God.
Yes, yes. I'm sure you were like, I'm sure you thought there was nobody from Star Trek here, but she plays Valerie Fox, who is featured very heavily. Probably has the most lines, second to John Lovitz in this
All
episode,
right,
and that is
here
the
we
cast.
go.
Ah! Oh no! We've just entered another Star Trek connection! Ah!
Yeah,
What's up?
Kevin had commented that the series is in need of
Hmm.
revival, and this is probably the one that slot right into modern times. Real life has actually outdone the insanity of the parodies in the OG series.
It's true.
And yeah, as I was watching it, I was thinking the same thing. Like it feels like a show that would be written and made today. But I'll let you get into it,
There
Steve.
is one person that you slept on, shall we say. Are you familiar with one Maurice LaMarche?
No, the guy that played
Yes, I
Jeremy.
mean, aside from him, I'd say he's most well known as the voice of the Brain from Pinky and the Brain.
Oh, I'm surprised you didn't mention Futurama. I thought that's for
I
sure where
mean,
you
of
were
course,
going.
he's good in that too, but I mean, everybody knows the Brain, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, I loved the
Yeah.
Brain. Looks like he was also most recently in Rick and Morty. Oh, he's in the High on Life video game. I was just playing that a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
It's
that
really
game
good.
looks so interesting. What is that system for? What system is that for?
I think it's on everything. I'm playing it on PC because I have like the Xbox PC Game
I
Pass,
see. I see.
which is an amazing deal. Like it's ridiculous. It's like it's $10 a month,
Whoa, whoa, whoa!
and
Well, look, we don't
you get
have
access to like tons of
we don't
AAA
have
titles. I
any
just
ad on this show, buddy. So unless we're getting
maybe you're not getting paid for it, but
well, I want my cut after this episode, okay?
Xbox, they kiss good.
All right.
It's their new
So you ready to
slogan.
jump into this episode?
Yeah, let's
Okay,
do
we
it.
open on a wide shot of New York featuring a pair of buildings that are no longer there. Did you notice this was like the second time we have like a 9/11 reference, not even on purpose?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's yeah. I think the Twin Towers have come up a few times at this point.
Uh,
But we do a lot of stuff from the
yep,
90s, so it
there
kind
you
of makes
go.
sense.
So no, I want to say that somehow we're predicting something, or I don't know. People can read into it how they want. Okay, the sun is rising. It's morning in New York, and after a few random shots of famous buildings, including the Natural History Museum and the United Nations building, we are inside the apartment of one Jay Sherman, aka the Critic. His phone rings, waking him up. He groggily answers it, and it's his mother saying she's removing Jay from their will and happy birthday. Do you remember this opening running gag?
Yeah, I do. I do remember. Man, I couldn't believe how much of the show came of this particular episode. In fact, came like rushing back to me as I was watching it. But by the way, Steve, that guy that we were just talking about, the voice of the brain, Maurice LaMarche, and Kevin, you'll might be interested in this too. He is one of the voices in Queer Duck. He's the voice of Oscar Wildcat in Queer Duck, as is Nick Jameson, which did some uncredited voices as well in the pilot episode of what are we doing here? The Critic.
Wow. I think
Everybody
Xbox is going to be taking their money back for that mistake. So yeah, basically this was kind of like their couch gag where there would be a different message every morning for Jay. Could you, I don't know, could you remember any of the other messages? I remember one time he got a call from Michael Jackson. Do you remember any of them?
Oh my God, yeah, that does ring a bell. No, I mean off the top of my head, I can't. Like as soon as she started talking, I was like, oh, she's gonna do the will thing. But yeah.
So the theme song plays. Jay puts on a toupee. He goes outside, and a pigeon steals it. Jay and his son are now at the zoo, and they see a pair of pandas that look exactly like them. And one of the pandas winks at Jay. Then Jay tries to ice skate, but the moment he steps on the ice, it breaks because he's too fat. Then they show movie clips from the coming attractions, which is Jay's show. And this is another time where they change the parody in the opening every time. But this time, it was from an alien movie. And when the little mouth pops out of the xenomorph, it kisses Ripley on the lips. Do you remember any other movie parodies off the top of your head that weren't in this episode?
I feel like, and there is one in this episode at the end of it, but I feel like there were a lot. I don't remember specific ones, but I feel like there were a ton of Schwarzenegger ones and Sylvester Stallone parodies, and it was always them like starring in like a super weird, it'd be like, oh yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger, is a former ballerina who has to, find his way to, back into, I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. Because, yeah, those movies were super popular back then. Did you ever see the episode of The Simpsons where the Critic guest starred?
Yes, I actually have seen that episode.
Good thing you said yes. You would have been on thin ice.
I didn't seek it out, but it just appeared.
Yeah, that's a great episode. And there's actually another episode of The Simpsons where Jay is in the background. He's in a mental institution just saying it stinks over and over again, which is his catchphrase. So.
Yeah. And it's interesting. So Kevin was actually saying, how this show continued the Simpsons idea of the opening running gag or whatever. But he mentioned that like where he lives, because they didn't have internet, and he only saw the actual movies. I'm assuming he's talking about like the movies like Alien and stuff reference to the show like years later. So like that's kind of interesting that he gets like the references first and then the film.
Nice. So I don't know. All right, and basically after the parody of Alien, the intro ends with Jay turning off his TV and snuggling into bed. What do you think of like the Critic intro and the music?
It's great. I think it fits really well with the style of the show. Yeah, I really liked it. I love the stupid running gag. You don't know at first that it's going to be a running gag, obviously. But yeah, what about you? I'm sure. I bet this was right up your alley.
Yeah, I mean,
they
say that the Critic was supposed to be like a love letter to New York. Like unlike The Simpsons, which takes place in sort of like a nebulous Springfield that could be in like any state. Like they planted the Critic specifically in New York, but ironically. They said their ratings in New York and other large cities was actually really low, and the show was doing really well in the Midwest. So, I mean, as far as capturing sort of like the feel of something that would take place in New York, I think the opening theme does that quite well. And of course, it's hilarious. So, and it's etched into my mind until the day I die. So how could I not like it?
Wow.
So the show begins. We are inside a makeup room. Doris, the aforementioned makeup lady, sprays hair in a can on a very sullen-looking Jay, spraying his balding like dome, more or less. Doris asks Jay what's wrong. He says he's 36, lonely, and his hair comes out of a can. And then Jay says, he should just go out, like on TV, and let the world see who he really is, I guess, as a balding 36-year-old. And then,
Yeah. And this was around the time, too, when those hair in a can infomercials were like really, I mean, is popular the right word? They were
I
on TV
remember
a lot.
mostly Hair Club for Men. I don't really remember the hair in a can.
Oh no! Like after like it was usually on like midnightish.
So USA up
and
all
because
night?
I used yeah, well, I mean, I used to even as a kid, man, I used to stay up really
Me too.
late.
That's why we're here, buddy.
And yeah, and basically like Star Trek: The Next Generation would air every weeknight from 11 to midnight, and then afterwards it'd be like an infomercial, and so yeah, I used to see it all the time, or at least like the first few minutes of it.
Yeah, 100%. So, all right, where are we here? Doris says that the can is empty, and Jay demands that she gets more. And then coming attractions, hold on, I see some more genius from Kevin Ball here. He says, like, unlike The Simpsons, they had more painted backgrounds. And let's see.
And unlike The Simpsons, I can see this is why I do
Yeah.
the chat. And unlike The Simpsons, that I had, I think painted backgrounds painted on cells, which is why they were flat shaded colors. Kevin does animation, by the way.
All right.
So
well, we better clean up
it's
our
pretty
act
damn good.
here.
Kenny P. Collins here in the chat. He mentioned referencing back to the crossover episode with The Simpsons. Love the crossover episode with The Simpsons. And Jay at the end says, "Hey, and if you ever want to visit my show," and then he gets interrupted. Yeah, that won't be happening.
Bart says, that's not going to happen. Classic
That's
stuff.
great.
So, yeah, coming attraction starts. Jay is now wearing a hat, or a baseball hat, that says World's Greatest Granny, which I guess we can just assume that Doris gave him that hat. And
Right. He took it from
and
Doris.
says that they will be reviewing Home Alone 5, and which is basically a classic parody that I remember quite well, where like the mom is on a plane and she goes, "Oh no, we left Kevin at home and he's only 27." And they cut to Macaulay Culkin and he's got like a 5 o'clock shadow and his voice is all deep and he's like,
Yeah.
And then also they talk about Rabbi P.I. starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. And there were some awesome lines in this where the guy, he tries to shoot Arnold. He says, "Eat lead, Rabbi." And then Arnold goes, "Sorry, that's not kosher." And then Jay says he's not going to show him singing. And then he shows us Arnold singing. And it's pretty freaking hilarious. Anything to comment on those two parodies?
No. The parodies were great. It was one of the things I loved about the Critic. Like I could watch an entire show where it's just like the Critics, coming attraction show with these stupid parodies.
Yeah,
They're
if I
so
remember
good.
correctly, that is kind of mostly what season 3 is. It's just mostly just parodies and kind of not as much story in the background, if I remember correctly.
Probably easier to make, cheaper to
Exactly.
make.
Yeah. So now coming attractions ends, and Jay's boss, Duke Phillips, bursts into the studio, demanding to know why Jay has to be so critical. Now, do you have an idea of who Duke Phillips is based on?
Is it? Oh my God, the guy from the A-Team?
No. It's a
Yeah.
real life
You know what I'm talking about.
millionaire or billionaire.
No, I have
Ted
no
Turner.
idea.
Ted Turner.
Oh my God, yes. Okay, I can totally see it
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
So I love shoot, what was his name? The guy who voices Duke Phillips. For some reason, he always plays a racist. It's like, can you hear a racism in his voice? Because he always gets cast as a racist. I don't know.
I I mean, I can kind of see it, but because he probably does that same voice for racist characters, so I'm like, okay, this guy sounds a
Yeah,
little
oh,
racist, I guess.
100%. So while he's like giving Jay his talking to, Duke gets interviewed by People Magazine, and this is where he delivers the awesome line. He says that he has no one to envy. He envies you having him to envy, which is just a line that's, I mean, I wouldn't say it's,
Yeah,
yeah,
amazing
yeah.
line.
We have to remember that just for future use. That should
Yeah,
have been a weapon of mass satisfaction promo there.
yeah, that would have been great. Kevin was asking, did they actually always say Arnold Schwarzenegger? I know that they did sometimes, but I saw that they used a different name. Now they use the real actors' names all
Yeah, I don't know.
throughout
Maybe
this
you're thinking
episode.
of Rainier Wolfcastle from The Simpsons, but no, yeah, they always ragged on the real actors, but for some reason, they never insulted the actual movies. At least in the first two seasons, it was always the sequels. So Jay then on the show Coming Attractions, Jay then interviews a new actress, Valerie Fox. Jay says he hasn't seen her latest film, and she flirts with him on air and asks him to dinner, and he accepts. I'm I know I'm probably blazing past like a few jokes and one-liners, but we'd be here all day if I mentioned all the hilarious crap
Yeah,
that happens in the Critic. Uh,
this is like a very, at least this episode was very like
oh
dialogue
yeah,
dense. There's a lot of dialogue, way more than like I think any other animated stuff we've seen. But again, this is like kind of, well, not kind of. I mean, it's for adults. It's marketed towards adults,
100%.
so makes sense that there's going to be more talking.
So Jay takes Valerie to Leon Riche. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I read that it loosely translates to the rich jackass. It's like a fancy restaurant where other critics and apparently Conan O'Brien are dining. And then they basically have dinner, and now we are back at Jay's apartment. He shows Valerie his picture from when he was like he had a part on Dances with Wolves, and he says his Native American name was Throws Like a Girl, which was pretty funny. And then Valerie goes to leave, but she changes. She pauses for a minute, and gives some sort of like hammy dialogue, saying she doesn't want to be on like the other side of the door. And then Jay asks what.
Well, no, she says something like, I thought it was actually like
Oh,
really
it
well
is.
written.
It
Because what she
is.
says is, she says something to the extent of, oh, I was just thinking that, this door's about to
Yeah, that's
close
it.
and, my life, and, which is like, just a great metaphor, and it's actually what's going to happen. And like, she says like, my life's going to change depending on which side of the
Right.
door
How
I'm
many
going to be on.
times have you delivered that line to one of your dates?
I mean, Steve, I'm gonna save this line. I'm gonna put it in my notes app.
Right. So basically, Jay invites her in, and then the door closes, and you can hear Jay asking her what she does in her movie, and she says she seduces chubby men and then kills them. So yeah, classic. The next morning,
Hey, something Kevin, sorry to cut you off, but something that Kevin had mentioned in the chat, Kevin Ball, was that the critic is where the phrase "and nothing of value was lost" originated. I did not know
yeah, I
that.
didn't know that either. Like, we'll have to do a little bit more.
I remember him saying it, but
I just don't remember what episode, but that's pretty interesting. So the next morning, Jay wakes up next to Valerie, and as they are kissing, Jay's son Marty shows up, and then he sort of takes him aside, and he's like, "Hey, son, you may have noticed that there was a beautiful woman in my bed," and he's like, "Oh, don't worry, I'm not going to tell anyone." And then Jay says, "No, I want you to tell everyone, especially your mother and her new, her new boyfriend or something like."
her
Yeah,
trainer,
that's what it is. Yeah,
her new trainer, but it's implied that she's with him.
right. Yeah, 100%. Hold on, let me fix you there. All right, there you are. And so now they are street side, and Valerie tells Jay that she loves him, and Jay reciprocates. And then now we are back, presumably at Leon Riche, some restaurant, and Jay dines with his actor friend Jeremy Hawk, who would you say that Jeremy Hawk is a parody of? I just wanted to say who you would think.
Isn't it the guy? Oh my God, I can't remember the actor's name from Crocodile Dundee. Is what I
I'd say he's a
assumed.
bit of him and a bit of Mel Gibson, because Mel Gibson is
Yeah.
Australian. But
We also, I just wanted to say hi to Stadium Arts, also in the chat,
what up,
aka Stry.
welcome aboard. Good to have you here as always. So Valerie approaches them, and Jay is worried that Jeremy will steal her away. Jeremy says that women love him no matter what he does. He's even tried like not bathing. And like Valerie shows up and basically just sort of acknowledges him, but kind of blows him off, doesn't really do anything. And then like Valerie leaves, and then Jay tells Jeremy that he's thinking about asking Valerie to marry him, but like Jeremy freaks out and grabs Jay, and then they go out on like a fire escape to basically drink. And Jeremy says that you've got to slow down, that to never date an actress. Anything else you remember that he possibly tells him? But that's basically the gist of it.
He just tells him that he's his friend, and that he's the only decent guy he's met since he moved to the country, and he loves him. And oh yeah, actually I do remember something. Yeah, so he says to Jay, and I love you, blah blah. And then Jay says, "Wow, twice in one day," because earlier his love interest had like said that she loved him. So
yeah, that was really funny, and I think it's good because it shows Jay's and Jeremy's relationship, which continues throughout at least the first two seasons. So now we are at Jay's parents' house, and before Jay's parents answer the door, Jay is like, Valerie, there's something I got to tell you. And right when they open the door, Valerie goes, "Oh, you're adopted." And Jay goes, "Well, duh." And and then they're at dinner, and basically this is when Jay's dad, Franklin, like this is his time to shine, and he just says all this ridiculous. What do you think of Jay's dad?
Oh, he's really funny. Anyone with an aloof or grandparent or parent that's losing it mentally, basically, yeah, he just says inappropriate things and or just weird random things.
That's what I like about him. He's not as annoying as Grandpa Simpson. He's more just random, and that's what I loved about him as a young lad, and now, of course. And he says, "A peanut is neither a pea or a nut." And then Jay says that his dad had a stroke. And then later his mom is like, that's just what we tell people to describe his personality.
Yeah, to explain his personality.
Yeah. So mom says she was thinking about giving Jay back to the orphanage. And and this shows their relationship. I was afraid that the pilot episode, do you remember the one where Jay takes his mom onto like Oprah Winfrey or something like that, and says that, I don't know, he says that he hates her or something because she's so mean to him. You remember that?
I don't remember that
one.
I
was afraid that was going to be the pilot, and I'm like, oh man. And that just goes back to my sort of philosophy that they made the Critic less depressing in season 2. Fox went in there and they did a little more retooling. But anyway, so Val and Jay walk out in the yard. Jay tells Val about the time he wet his pants at his birthday party, and all the kids called him Wee Wee. And Val says kids can be so cruel. And do you want to take it from there? Do you know what happens?
Yeah, and then they walk up to past this horse handler, ranch hand, and he's like, "Oh, hey, Mr. Wee Wee," whatever, He calls him by the
How you doing there, Wee Wee?
He's a grown man.
He's like, "Stop it." It's like, "Sure thing, Mr. W."
Yeah, the Mr. W.
I died. I remember, it's like now I remember it so vividly, but it caught me completely off guard. And I laughed out loud. I was watching this at work and I laughed out loud.
Yeah, and we should mention earlier at the dinner, like the butler refers to Jay as like,
Ad-
like he goes to give him like a plate.
Adopted
What is it
master.
called?
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of
Hmm.
master. Oh, good stuff.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
so they arrive at the horse stable, and oh yeah, we already did that. Margot, Jay's sister, asks Val to go on a horseback ride, and Val, keep calling her Val, Valerie. I think you get it by now, listener. Val asks if Jay is coming, and he says he had a very bad experience with a horse once. And then we see his memory, and he remembers as a little boy. I think it's the same horse master, basically, who calls him Wee Wee.
Yeah.
He goes, "Are you sure you're under 80 pounds?" And little Jay is like, yeah. And then he walks off frame, and then all you hear is like this gurgling, splitting sound, and then a horse whining.
Yeah, like obviously like the horse like spine has been broken. The pony. It is a pony. We should point out it's a small
Right,
horse.
and
Obviously.
then the horse master goes, "Patches, no!" And this is where it gets truly brilliant. They cut back to the the present, yeah,
Current day.
and
Yeah.
Val and Margot are riding their horses, and you see Patches' grave right
Yeah,
there.
like right
Oh
past it.
man, that's so good, so good. So
Stadium Arts had mentioned that he only saw one episode of The Critic when he was like
mhm,
10 on something called Teletoon, or I'm sorry, no, yeah, Teletoon in
mhm.
Canada. So he does not remember it at all. It's a good show.
Oh
in my
yeah, you
opinion.
gotta get caught up on the old Critic. Spoiler alert.
And by the way, for those that want to watch it, I don't know how you watched it, but I watched it on Crackle
Oh,
for
they
free.
have at least the pilot episode on YouTube for free. So you can.
And I think I also saw it's on HBO Max.
Nice, nice. Well, at least.
I will say the version on Crackle, the video is like interlaced, so you do get like some of those like weird
Oh, that's too
lines,
bad.
horizontal
Well,
lines. So
my
yeah,
copy was pristine, upres even.
I guess look it up on YouTube, folks. I'll look it up and drop a link in the
Or
chat.
I mean, better yet, if you're really into physical media, you can buy the DVDs. Margot, let's see, says she goes on a horse ride with all, or so Margot and Val are riding horses. Margot tells Valerie that she takes this ride with all of Jay's dates, and then they admit that they are just using him. But Val says she really likes Jay, and Margot says, "Well, well, welcome to our crappy family," which was pretty funny. And so Jay and Marty play Escape from the Big Apple. They're now in like an ice cream parlor with some arcade games, and they're playing this arcade game called Escape from the Big Apple. They finish, and basically Marty says he's never seen Jay so happy. Jay says he's going to pretend to be sick so he doesn't have to review Val's movie. He also like Marty is like, "Oh, isn't that lying?" And Jay is like, "Oh, you just have to learn to lie at the right moment." And then some girls come up, and they go up to Jay and they go, "Hey, aren't you Dustin Hoffman?" And he's like, "Yes."
Yes.
Pretty hilarious. Any comments on that scene?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. Yeah, just good stuff, really
Hmm.
funny. And it's like it almost reminds me a little bit of Arrested Development in the sense like it's just like joke after joke, like bang, 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 bang. Like it's very dense with like
Yes, and
comedy.
it does a good job progressing the plot because Jay's trying to
Right.
get out of reviewing Valerie's new movie, and now we're at Jay's apartment, and Jay watches a TV on a couch. I think he's wearing like a bathrobe, and then there's a knock at the door, and it's Val, and Jay says she's made him so happy, and then they do an awesome parody of Disney's Beauty and the Beast, which was pretty popular, at least still in the public zeitgeist at the
Oh yeah,
time.
for sure. I mean, you could do that today and people would know,
Sure,
the
sure.
reference. But not only do they do a parody, but they like copy a lot of like the camera angles and animation
Hmm.
style of Beauty and the Beast. Like they even like had like a 3D rendered
I saw.
chandelier, which I did not remember that, and I was shocked. Shocked when I saw that. Like this must have been like by far the most expensive part of the show to animate. I mean, the animation's pretty good regardless, but
just 3D animation wasn't as prominent at the time back then as it is now. So
yeah, especially like in a cartoon that's like airing on TV.
Right. They're like, oh, we can afford 3 minutes of it. So yeah, all right. So instead of Beauty and the Beast, like, and they're basically reprising, like, I guess the Beauty and the Beast theme, and then like there's a singing toilet, and then there's a few other singing things, and then at the end,
yeah, like a hand vacuum.
Yeah, he goes, Beauty and King Dork, and Valerie's like, what did you say? And he says, how useful is the spork? You know, those things you get from KFC? Like, I remember that line like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
So
Kevin had mentioned an episode that now that he mentions it, like it's coming back in my head. Maybe we should cover it next Christmas. But he said that for TV, that 3D scene was groundbreaking. There was also a stop motion bit for the parody of Nightmare Before Christmas.
I remember.
The Nightmare Before Hanukkah. It was amazing.
Classic stuff for sure. So time lapse, and now Jay lays next to Val. There's a knock at the door, and he answers it, and it's a pimply-faced, like, production assistant. And he's like, sorry you missed the premiere of Kiss of Death. Luckily, here it is on VHS. And then Jay watches the movie, and then there's clips, and Val is terrible. So Jay leaves a note for Val before he heads to work in the morning. Basically, he's like, if you're still here when I come back, then I know our love was real. If not, then, I mean, obviously it was all a big fraud. And before he leaves, he takes a Polaroid of her just so he could prove that some, attractive woman was into him. I don't know. Do you think that could be viewed as like, too skeezy in 2023?
I mean, I don't think so. Like, at least not the way it's played here. Like, I think it'd be fine. Like, I really think the show is quite tame by, like you would see like in modern adult animation. Not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying that, it's just network TV in the 90s. So there's not going to be, the show's not going to like push the envelope, right. In those ways. So, they had to have good writing, which they do.
Yes, 100%.
And by the way, for those who are watching the show live, I've dropped a link that goes directly to the stop motion scene that Kevin was talking about in that episode of The Critic. So these are extra goodies you get if you watch live. For those just listening.
Yeah.
Goodies, URLs. I call those goodies.
Come on,
Steve.
Podcast listeners. Join us live every Sunday.
Yeah. When I sent my mom a link to a video the other day, I was like, "Did you get the goodies I sent you, mother?"
And she's like, "What's a link?"
Basically, she's like, "Okay."
I wasn't gonna go there, but okay, you're allowed to.
Yeah.
So he takes the Polaroid and leaves, and now we're back in the makeup chair with Doris. Doris accidentally sets Jay's hair on fire after he mentions how much money he makes, and then she's like, sorry, I'm union, one of those kind of jokes. And now we're back inside Coming Attractions, and basically Jay, I wrote here Jay trashes Val's performance, and he's actually pretty, considering how he trashes other movies. It's
constructive criticism.
Exactly. And and take it from someone who lives in Hollywood and has a lot of people who are letting them read their scripts. Nobody wants actual constructive criticism. They just want to be told how great they are.
Especially not sexually aggressive Steve. What was your nickname from the last show?
I don't remember.
It wasn't sexual assault, Steve.
I hope not. It's been 2 weeks. How can I remember that?
Savage. Well, and by the way, so there was a show we did where I can't remember. It was like the creator, right?
Eat the Cat. Yeah, Savage Steve Holland.
Yeah, his name is Savage Steve Holland, and his nickname here, Savage here, and as a child when he kicked the kid's tooth out, and He's kept it as a grown man. He introduces himself as Savage Steven to people. Okay, sorry for that sidebar.
I mean,
Please, you Savage.
You need
Steve.
a name like that if you're gonna try to work in Hollywood.
It's not so good if you're gonna like initial something SS. You know, that's not.
Wait, I don't get it. Please explain it. No, I get it completely.
I don't think YouTube would appreciate if I explained.
Yeah, man, that almost makes me want to. Do you know what's with people saying unalive? Have you ever heard that? Have you ever heard people say that?
Oh yeah, because they're trying to get around algorithms that might.
I swear, the English language gets trashed every day, Yahel.
The idea is that like, oh, you know, like the bots that work the algorithm will hear the word kill, and then they won't show my video to as many people. I can, at least on the YouTube side of things, I mean, I can tell you that's not really how that works for YouTube. And also, wouldn't they just teach the bots to look for unalive?
Right. Well,
Like, it's so
luckily,
dumb.
we're a podcast first and a YouTube show second. So you'll get all the words you're not supposed to say, like suicide, kill, and I'm just going to stop right there. So, all right. What a weird sidebar. Okay. So where are we? Okay. All right. Jay constructively criticizes Val's performance. Jay returns home to find Val. Like he's all right. Before he opens the door, he's like, "Please be there. Please be there." He opens the door and she like basically bitch slaps him like several times and says, "You fat, you bald, and even for a film critic, you're ugly." And Jay begs her to come back, follows her to the airport. He's like, "There's one thing you didn't count on. I don't have any pride." So he
starts begging immediately.
Yeah, exactly. And man, like the casting of John Lovitz for this was just
he's
perfect.
so good.
So just absolutely perfect. And at one point he also says, "You know, you're going to come back to me like starting now," or something like that. She gets on the plane. He's like, now. And then like time lapses and now it's dark. And he's like very sullenly says, "Now," which is really kind of sad. But whatever. We get to laugh at Jay's misery.
I wanted to, Kevin Paul said in the chat, this podcast has suicide, talk of 9/11, and by the way, the critic. It has everything.
Thanks, buddy. I think Kevin might be our number one fan, if I'm not mistaken. Prove me wrong, folks. Prove me wrong. So now we are back in Jay's apartment, and Marty laughs at a parody of Seinfeld. Jay doesn't, and he says he's sitting on a mountain of rage, and he has nowhere to direct it. And then Marty pulls like a pair of tickets to the upcoming Sylvester Stallone movie. And he says that he starts describing it, and basically Jay doesn't even let him finish. He's like, "To the cinema." So basically he's going to go and hate watch and trash the Sly Stallone movie, and everything's okay as long as there's shit to rage about. Then, you know, you don't have to worry about the relationships in your daily life. I mean, is that the theme of the pilot episode of The Critic?
I guess so. But what did you? I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that we both really enjoyed this episode. But what did you think overall, looking back on it now, and versus what you thought of it?
Yeah. Let me run the bumper, and then we will unpack that.
Oh yeah.
Remember before rated? That's the question.
Yes, looking back on it, as Yahel asked, I mean, this show totally holds up. I would say, much like Duckman, which we reviewed, I don't know, a month or two ago. Like, it's a show that we really need now because, I mean, as Yahel said at the beginning, like movies are so bad these days, and it's just so sort of corporately produced that they're.
I never.
No. That's verbatim what you said.
They
are basically parodies of themselves. I mean, I don't know. Like, basically, I would say Red Letter Media is like, for me at least, is the critic of 2023. I mean, because they really tell it like it is and stuff. But all the jokes still hold up, and just really good satire. That I mean, obviously, the movie parodies are. I mean, because it's weird. Like, you wouldn't think a parody about Home Alone or Alien from 1993 or 1994, whatever I said this premiered, would be relevant in 2023, but they're still trying to keep these franchises alive, and they're terrible at this point.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, Steve, I think maybe the reason why they're keeping those franchises alive, Steve, is just so that the critic will still be relevant.
Well, I mean, what else is John Lovitz doing? Like, get him on the horn and get me some new critic episodes.
Isn't he making conspiracy documentaries about aliens? No, that's Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
That's Dan Aykroyd. Oh my God, we got to review one of his documentaries one of these days. In fact, maybe that's what we should do next week.
All right. Well, we will talk.
I saw a batshit.
I want to. Yeah, we'll talk about it off air. This sounds interesting.
Right.
I remember I used to watch his show. That what did he had a show in the 90s, right? A paranormal show. You remember?
I don't remember that.
All right. Well, we'll talk about it later. Okay.
Okay. Well, yeah. We'll
so those are my thoughts about the critic. What are your thoughts, Agent Yahel?
Yeah, I loved the critic as a teenager, and it still really holds up. In fact, I would say I enjoyed it more now. I feel like I got more of the jokes, and I could certainly relate to them more. And his cynicism, I can relate to a lot
100%, baby. Did you watch the when it was rerunning on Comedy Central? Were you watching those reruns back in the? Yeah,
yep,
me too.
Yep.
Me too.
Yeah, I watched it there too. And yeah, it's a save for me for sure, and for it to be remembered because it's great, better now than before.
Yep, it's a save for me as well. So I just there it is. Here we go.
In accordance to Obscurity Now, the most important streaming YouTube podcast in all of the internet, you shall be remembered. Yes. Good show. Good show.
Did you notice that in the thumbnail for this episode, I have Jay's looking at a screen, and on that screen is a thumbnail of our show? and it
no,
says,
I did not.
It stinks below it. So we're a part of the critic now, buddy. We made it.
We did it. We did it, Steve.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, that was. I would say that we have like a couple of different kinds of shows that we do for Obscurity Now. We've got stuff that we've never seen before, and then we've got stuff that we know is great that no one talks about anymore, and that's like the critic. And we definitely want more people to go back and watch the critic. So maybe someday, before John Lovitz dies horribly, unalives himself.
Unalives himself, yes, Steve. Please think of the
algorithm is what you mean to say. Then maybe we'll get more episodes of the critic. But only time will tell. Only time will tell. Did you have something to add?
No, Steve. I just want to make sure this podcast stays alive.
Well,
no, it's a great show. Lovitz is perfect. Kevin had written earlier in the chat that the part was written that he read that they wrote this part specifically for John Lovitz.
Nice.
So if that's the case, I could totally see it because man, it feels like John Lovitz.
Right. And if you want more Lovitz / Obscurity Now content, make sure you check out our Brave Little Toaster review. So, because there's some sweet Lovitz action in there as well. All right. So, is that it? Is that our show? Are we? Okay. Well, man, what a nice active chat. Thank you all for showing up. Before y'all go, I have to tell you about the last 9 days of the Escape to Earth Kickstarter, which is the comic book that I created. This is actually issue 2. If you like high action and high adventure and dinosaurs, it is definitely the comic book for you. And if not, then maybe you could read it and make fun of it. I mean, whatever, as long as I get your pledge, your money, I could go either way. It's all good. So we're going to play a promo for that, and then we will see you next Sunday, where we may or may not be discussing a Dan Aykroyd documentary about reptilians, or what's his thing? What's it? Ghosts?
Aliens is how I remember that he believes in aliens. But the thing was, he had the documentary I saw, from what I remember, he was just real weird and full of conspiracy theories, and how he has that Crystal Skull vodka company. If I remember right, he was had bottles of that around or something, or was peddling it in some way. I may be wrong, but I feel like he was peddling that in some way.
Nice. All right, well, we'll see you next Sunday as we continue to unearth even more obscure media, only on Obscurity Now. I'll see you next week. I'm having a weird day. The name's Adam. Where I'm from, I'm known as the Zero Thief. Depending on who you ask, some might say I'm the best thief. But believe it or not, even the best screws up every once in a while, and that's what I did, and I had to make a fast getaway. I ended up crash landing on this bizarre planet. Turns out, I didn't get away fast enough. These winged freaks followed me here.
It's just us here, Zero Thief, on this empty backwoods planet. So start talking, either to me or my blade.
Okay, I do have something to tell you. It's about the planet. It's not that empty. Come on, man. I thought you were gonna die. Cut me loose. Behind you. Whoa. Thought I was done for. It was gonna be a light snack for a snarling creature. But then she showed up, riding on the back of one of those monsters like it was nothing. And with a wave of her hand, the other razor-toothed beast just stomped away. I'd never seen anyone like her before in my life. I thought I'd say something clever. Thanks, have you seen my ship? She gave me a look that said more than words ever could, because I think she was trying to read my mind or something. And from there, things just got even weirder. Escape to Earth. Issue 2, crowdfunding now. You've been enjoying Obscurity Now, a podcast that's recorded live to tape and streamed to Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe so you never miss an episode or hilarious quip. Take us with you by following the download links provided in the show notes to wherever you get podcasts. And take notice of our various social media links if that's what you're into. I'm not here to judge. And make sure you join us live next week at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now.